I said I know where you're going, 'cause baby I've been there. I said I know where you're heading, and baby don't be scared. I said I know where you're going. Hello everybody, welcome to episode 45 of In a Good Way podcast. Today I have a very special guest and I'm very excited to have her here, Jane Fecteau. She is an intuitive healer. She's from Intuitive Healing Inc. So you can find her on janefecteau.com, correct?
Yes.
And she's a medical intuitive and energy healer. She specializes in chronic pain and chronic illness, which kind of ties in how how we came in contact, which we'll talk about later. So, but first off, I want to welcome Jane. So thank you so much, Jane, for being here. I'm honored.
Thank you, Omar, for inviting me to your Zoom interview, which will be a podcast also. I'm very excited about this. I haven't done any podcasts, and you were recommended to me, and I knew immediately that I should contact you and do this podcast and do this interview.
Wow, that's no, and the same. You were recommended, and by a previous interviewee, is that the right word? Yeah, someone I interviewed who is I don't know if it's the right way of saying it, NDE experiencer, survivor. I'm not sure which the right terminology, but one of my previous guests, Natalie Sedman, who was a lot of fun having on. So as soon as she recommended you, I was like, okay, let me reach out to her and we'll see how that goes. So, and it's been great, right? We've had correspondence for a few weeks now, and we'll get into that. But first off, I always like to start off because obviously, right, you're an intuitive healer, which means to some people, and I'll let you explain it more in detail, but they might think intuitive healer, like, what does that mean? And it's almost like having that faith of something you can't see, right? In the spirit world, in our energy bodies, or however it may be, right? So before you even got into that, growing up, were you already experiencing spiritual things, or how did that come about?
Oh, yes. When I was a young child, around 6 years old, I was in Catholic school, and I remember daydreaming a lot. And somehow that wasn't accepted by the nuns or the priests, and I would get notes home. And even the school bus driver sent a note home that says, Jane's daydreaming, and I'm only 6 years old. So I think what was happening at that time is I was just connecting with information, right? It was just daydreaming, and who knows what was happening. It was relaxing my mind. And maybe I was just connecting with information back then. I don't really remember. But I think since I was a young child, I was able to access information, but it just wasn't encouraged back then. So many years later, I had the opportunity to now I see I had the opportunity to connect again later in life.
Wow. And so, I mean, I don't want to jump all the way to when you started doing energy healing, but I guess real quick, in between that, did any other big instances happen? Like maybe like something close to an NDE or some kind of traumatic event that unraveled your spiritual gifts anymore? Or?
Oh, yes. So there nothing going on my entire life. I got a job in a business office. It was a summer job until I figured out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I was 17. It was a file clerk. And it was just a summer job till I figured out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And I actually ended up moving up in the business office, position by position by position by position, until in a 27-year period of time, I was corporate healthcare finance. And so the event that happened that made me aware of energy healing was I sustained an injury at work, and I came to find out later that I was chemically injured.
Oh, wow.
Only because I was having some chemical sensitivities. to the copier paper room, to people who wore perfume, to cologne, different things like that. And I thought, wow, that's really odd. I don't feel well. And now all of a sudden I'm sensitive to scented products and chemicals and things like that. And my friend Deb, who worked in the accounting department right across the hall, said, you have chemical sensitivities. Now, I never heard of that before. I never had a problem my whole life. So I couldn't quite figure out what that was, but I knew that it was seriously impacting my life. She gave me the name of her doctor, who is an environmental specialist doctor, and he dealt with people who had chemical sensitivities. There's not many of them left anymore. That was years ago. So anyway, I was working with him. He was trying his best to get me better, but by that time, I couldn't have any scented products. My rubber on my sneakers had to be, the sneakers had to be outside in a tin can. All of my clothes were giving me, like breathing. It was just terrible. My life was coming apart.
Wow.
And then, so how did this happen? Right? I didn't know, but I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. And one day I came into work early and I walked through the admitting department. The kitchen is over to the left. My office is right beside the kitchen. And I walked through the front door, through the reception area, the switchboard and admitting department. And I said, what is that smell? It smells like somebody sprayed Raid. Wow. And the girl at the switchboard said, oh, it's just the guy in the kitchen spraying pesticides. And I'm like, what? Wow. And so I called my doctor and I said, I think I know why I'm so sick. And so then Dolores in accounting found out about what happened. She came running over with a stack of files and she goes, they've been spraying chemicals every 2 weeks here for 12 years. She had a big stack of invoices. So what happened was my little office was right next to the kitchen and they were spraying me every 2 weeks with pesticides. Wow. And I was being, and that's a neurotoxin, right?
Yeah.
They say it's safe for you, but it was killing me actually. And I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. Long story short, I called my doctor and I said, I think I know what happened. I think I know what's happening to me. And I said, I just found out they've been spraying pesticides every 2 weeks right outside my office where the kitchen is, like 10 feet. And I've just never been in early enough to be in the fog of it, right? And so I went right to human resources and I said, where is the sign that says you're going to be spraying pesticides? We have pregnant women here. We have, and so then I called my doctor and I said, this is what had happened. And he goes, spraying pesticides on somebody who's chemically sensitive is like dropping an anvil on a spinal cord patient. He said, you get out of there, give me the name of your human resources VP, and I'll take it from here. Okay, so I had to work off site many, many months. They tried to clean up the place. I was already way, way too sick. So long story short, year or so goes by, maybe 2, I can't remember. I'm sicker and sicker and sicker. I'm getting thinner and thinner and thinner. I'm getting grayer and grayer and grayer. Wow. But I still have a good attitude. And they were having a blood drive one day. And I said to Holly up in administration, I'm like, oh, blood drive. Well, should I give blood? And she goes, I think you have to weigh a certain amount. And you're probably going to have to give it all right back. Wow. And I'm like, I have feelings, So anyway, long story short, I saw naturopathic doctors. I saw medical doctors that tried to give me medicine. And when I said no, they pounded their fist and said, why are you here wasting my time? Wow. I saw acupuncturists. I tried everything to get well. So years are going by and I'm still working 60, 70 hours a week, barely alive. Wow. And so my hairdresser, believe it or not, I was just getting my hair trimmed at the time. She goes, did you ever try energy healing? I'm like, I'm in healthcare finance, right? If somebody would have told me to go see Jane Fecteau, I don't know if I would have done it, but I was out of options, right? So I got the name and number of this person's energy healer and I went to see her and I began to feel hope. Began to feel my body change. And as time went on, I wanted to do the work. I was still in healthcare finance, but that's really what happened. That was my exposure to energy healing. And then there's a whole other story to that you might want to hear about another time, because it's going to take up a long time. But anyway, got energy healing, had a good result. Many months later, maybe it was a year or two later, I became an energy healer, and I had stopped working for this last hospital, this last corporate hospital job. And when my colleagues realized that I was now freelancing, and my specialty was cleaning up large multi-million dollar receivables. And so I had a good 7.5 years work of freelance work of these big hospitals and big medical institutions and big behavioral health institutions and companies, just cleaning up their receivables. And so I would work 7 a.m. to 12 or 1, come home, hour and a half later, I'd start seeing clients half days, 2:30 to 5 or 6 or 7, and on weekends. And over a 7-year period of time, I built my healing practice until I had acquired enough people and was well known enough to do it full time.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing. And it's sad that I guess everything's meant to be how it's meant to be, but it's horrible that you had to go through all of that, right? Like being poisoned, and it's just I've often, like, that's happened to me where people are spraying Raid like in a kitchen or something. I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, oh, well, I'm just, and it's like, it doesn't make sense to me, but I guess they have that trust in it. Well, it says it's okay for people or something. So that's amazing. But going back to, so when you became an energy healer, like, how did it happen? Because I've heard of certain people that do energy healings, and it was like from an ND, right? They died, came back, all of a sudden, boom, they noticed they have these certain gifts. So with you, after going through all that, you just started taking classes, or what was the process like of actually unraveling that?
I did not take any classes. So I was still in healthcare finance. I went up to the administrative offices to schedule a meeting with my boss for month end. So I could tell him what went well in the receivables department, what didn't go so well in the receivables department, and how we're never going to do that again, or how we can correct it. And just kind of give him an update so that he could present to the board of directors where we were in terms of receivables. And so I'm talking to Holly, and I said, hey, Holly, it's time for me to have a scheduled meeting with Greg. Can you check his calendar? Okay. So here she is in front of me, and there's a petition in back of her, and other people working back of there, and over to the left is Greg's office. So she got up, went to Greg's office to take a look at his schedule, and I could hear people behind the petition talking, and I'm like, it's my friend, we'll say Sam. I don't want to divulge too many names here. And he was clearing his throat. And I'm like, the only time Sam clears his throat like that is if there's something emotional going on. I've known him for 15 years. We re-engineered hospitals together, me and 4 other guys. I'm like, what's wrong with George? Something wrong with the kids? Something wrong with the dog? What's going on? And then I could hear some other people talking, and I wasn't like quite listening, but Holly was in there and I could hear people talking. And what I heard them say was, okay, I'm glad we decided on this night at this time, because when Jane passes away, we're going to need to support each other.
What?
They were planning a support group to console each other for when I died.
Wow.
Yep. So I'd been really, really not well for a long, long time. And people knew it, and I knew it. But I'm a firstborn perfectionist, type A person, and I'm not a quitter. I am not a quitter. Okay. So I heard that. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So I peeked into Holly. I'm like, I'll be right back. I went to my office and I sat down and I thought, wow, I knew I was sick, but these my colleagues are really worried about me, really, although they kind of said, but I'm busy. So meanwhile, I was just barely living while I was working, just barely surviving. Okay. So this is kind of the near-death experience that wasn't really a death, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm like, holy cow. So I go home that night and I'm still thinking about it. I'm like, wow, that's incredible. So in my quiet time, I thought, well, I better talk to God about this. So I knelt beside my bed and I said, Lord, this is what just happened this afternoon at work. Apparently, I'm dying. And I said, I just heard these guys talking about a support group to console themselves for when I die. And I said, listen, God, if you heal me, I will do the right thing. I will heal the people. Just show me what to do. Okay. Went to bed. Okay. Month later, I'm going to see my energy healer. This is part of the story I was going to tell you. Went to see my energy healer. Hey, you need to teach me how to do this work because I'm ready. And she was reluctant. She was reluctant. She was reluctant over months. I tell her what happened. I said, this is what happened. I prayed to God. She's a very spiritual woman. I prayed to God and I asked him to heal me. And I said, I will do the right thing. If you heal me, I'll do the right thing, God, and I'll heal the people. Just show me what to do. So here I am on the table having energy healing done. And she says to me, come kneel at my altar. I'm like, okay. She's my good friend. I'll kneel at your altar. So I kneel at the altar. She blesses me with holy oils on the top of my head, prays over me to hear God's word and understand, be able to discern information on how to help the people. She prays. She anoints me with holy oil. Get on the table, lay on your back. I laid on my back. She anointed my hands, front and back, my forehead to see, to my ears to hear, my eyes to see, my ability to speak, my ability to discern, my ability to have the wisdom and favor to understand how to help people. The whole thing took 90 minutes. So when I was done, she goes, all right, go heal the people. And I'm like, fantastic. So, I didn't really do a lot of studying. I just asked God to show me what to do. So I began to see people in my practice. I said, I'm an energy healer. I would go to business network meetings and I got some business cards. I got a website and I just told people I help, I'm pretty sure I can help you with chronic. I didn't say at the time chronic pain and chronic illness, but that is what it evolved into. And so as time went on, I was working freelance in healthcare finance, half days, launched my healing practice after that, half days and weekends. And I would just put my hands over people and say, God's blessing, God's blessing, God's blessing, God's healing, God's healing, God's healing. And then I'd see some images in my mind, like a liver or a kidney or an arthritic knee. And I'm like, I should go look those up. So I bought a bunch of anatomy books, slept with my anatomy books, watched TV with my anatomy books. And I said, God, page by page, you better give me a photographic memory because I can't be bringing these books out every time I have to help someone. And page by page, snap, page by page, snap, to a point where I didn't need it anymore. And I could just think about what I needed to see. And then I began to see them in images like in the anatomy book. But then I began to see 3D images and I began to see all kinds of information that were not in those books. That was way ahead of what they now have for scan, not they now have, but they have 3D medical and you can get the images now, but I was seeing them 20 years ago. So that's kind of how it all happened. I just asked God to show me, if you heal me, I will do the right thing and I'll heal the people. Just show me what to do. And all I have to do is put my hands on someone. Well, I don't see people in person anymore, but all I have to do is say, how can I help in my mind? After the person gives me the information about their chronic pain or chronic illness condition, I ask a few questions and then I say, how can I help? And then the images start coming up of what the problem is and, what steps I need to do to help their body integrate the energy for self-healing. Okay, so I don't pull any levers. I don't make things happen. I ask, how can I help? I see the information. I get the energy into the body. The body uses it to heal. And then I wait to hear back. I wait to hear back. How are you doing?
Yeah, that's amazing. So when you started, were you fully recovered already or not yet? You were still recovering, and you were like, I'm gonna go help everybody else too.
You know why, Omar? That is that I would say is the most important question you can ask. So I was still healing, but what happened was it got me out of my own stuff a few hours a day, right? I have someone coming to me now. They have neck pain, they have maybe they had mono before, they need some help with their spleen, they have knee pain, they have back injury, that you name it. Okay, it got me out of my own stuff a few hours a day, and I was in the energy field too. So little by little by little, I was working half days in healthcare finance. I'd rest for an hour, come home, hour and a half, and then I start helping people heal. And I was not focusing on myself during that time. I was focusing on someone else who needed help. And that helped me move through and heal. And the reason that is such an important question is because I taught for a while. I used to teach practitioners off and on over the years. I have many courses ready to go, years worth of courses. I'm just not ready to do that yet. But I had so many practitioners enroll in my free, I don't know, was it 8 to 10 week course a few years ago?
Wow.
And I was amazed how many of them said, I should probably wait till I feel better. I should probably wait till this back injury is gone. I have an autoimmune condition. I have attention deficit. I have fatigue, great fatigue. So I should probably wait. And I kept saying, don't wait. Getting the person, being with someone who needs your help will get you out of your I should nots, and get you to a place where you are living having your practice while you're getting well. And too many practitioners decide not to launch a practice and not help people heal because they're waiting to get better.
Wow.
That's the most important question you could ask me.
No, that made all the sense. That made all the sense.
Yeah.
Because it's true. Like even the times when, I was going, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but with my pain and things I was going through, even when I had anxiety, I'd realize when I first started coming out of it, it was like, oh, I finally got busy and I didn't even think about it. So I didn't get any. Like, that's, amazing. And especially, like you said, helping other people. I realized when I was having anxiety, I had stopped. I became kind of I think life made me bitter about stuff. So I didn't want to help people anymore, because before people would always reach out to me spiritually, this and that. Can you pray for me? All this and that. And at that time, I guess I was just kind of like, no, I don't want to. And, I guess you get stuck with your own thoughts. So it makes perfect sense. It makes absolutely perfect sense. So no, thank you very much for sharing that. I had another question I was going to ask you about that in regards to, so you said you've been already healing for 20 years?
Yes, I think 20 years. I stopped counting at 20. 20 at least. Since 2001. Since 2001. Wow. So yeah, 20 years.
And like you said, so you see it in your head. So you feel it came from, well, every person, right? You help it, every individual you see, like almost like an x-ray, you said, like of their body or something like that, right?
Yeah, what ends up happening if somebody had an arthritic, so here's a new client, they have an arthritic knee. Okay, we'll just use that as an example. And I will ask a few questions because we're over the phone. And I'll say, okay, so you're under medical care. Yes. And your doctor has diagnosed you with an arthritic knee. Yes. And so what makes it better? What makes it worse? Okay. As soon as they start answering those questions, well, you know, going up stairs make it worse. Going up the stairs or going down the stairs. If they say, oh, I can't even make it up the stairs, I have to hang on to things, then I can see the hinge in the knee. So what ends up happening is I see some anatomy and physiology pictures in front of me. And then as they're explaining, going up really is hard to push and they have to hang on. Then I can see the knee structure a little bit better, muscles, ligaments, and tendons, bony structure changes. And so they just come up in screens in front of me. And then the first screen comes forward and shows me what I need to do first. I may notice that the kneecap is out of place. First thing I might notice, the kneecap is out of place. I don't do chiropractic adjustments or move bones at all. But what I do is relax muscles, ligaments, and tendons so that the knee can remember its proper alignment. So the kneecap goes into place, but now the ankle has been compensating. So the ankle is probably off, the foot is probably off, the hip is probably off, the neck is probably off, right? So as the kneecap shifts, and they can feel it when it does, then I have to look and see, okay, I have to go all the way down to the foot, make my way up past the knee, hip, and all the way up the spine. And I can see the neck went like this because the kneecap was off. So I have to do the whole spine, take pressure off the knee, and then relax muscles, ligaments, and tendons, bring down the inflammation, and then just wait to see how that person heals. But that whole piece can take 20 minutes at least. I can do maybe three sections or three conditions during a session, or three large areas during a session. So it would be like that. I just have learned over the years that when I say how they give me information, when I say how can I help, I start getting images in my mind. I can actually feel what's happening. Sometimes I'll have the person stand up and walk with me and they'll say, yeah, my posture's better, but now my hip hurts or my neck feels a little off. And so don't we know how that goes, right? So and so I just help real time, relax muscles, ligaments, and tendons, and get that spine to align, take pressure off the knee, move the hips. I don't move the hips. The body relaxes enough so the hips align, everything aligns. And then through their own natural movements throughout the week or 2 weeks in between sessions, their body, the weak muscles will strengthen and the spasming muscles will relax, and they'll just see that they're moving better, they're less tired, and they have less pain. Most of the time, not everybody experiences a change here. There are a handful of people a year that do not. I can never explain why. I've talked to my acupuncture friends, and they say the same thing. You know, they help many people a year, and then a handful just don't respond. And so I don't keep people coming back. If you're, you set up a few sessions, and each session you should be getting better and better and better. By the third session, if you're not seeing any changes, then I'm probably not going to be the practitioner that's going to help you with this. But most people do see some nice changes. So I'm happy about that.
Absolutely. So you mentioned you don't see people in person anymore?
No. I started day one seeing people in person and over the phone. Okay. So I have to make sure people understand that, like, when COVID hit, people were not fussy. That's not the right way to say it. People were vigilant, right? During COVID. Okay. So who's sniffly, who's not, who wants a mask, who doesn't, who wants to see me in person, who doesn't want to see me in person. And so what ended up happening was it just got a little too, I wasn't able to focus as well with people in person because, we were both just so stressed or anxious or vigilant about not making each other sick, right? Absolutely. So anyway, because I started day one 20 years ago seeing people working with people over the phone and in person, I had 20 years experience already of distance work. So it wasn't like I shut down my in-person practice and then decided that I was going to start doing distance work. I was already doing it since day one. And so the people who used to see me, some elderly people, they were not happy, I'll tell you. And I said, oh, because it's kind of a social visit for them too, while I work in their hip or their back or whatever, and they're all darling. But I said, let's just try it and see how it goes, because they would have to drive here in the winter time and traffic and all this. And so after a few sessions, every one of them, this is the way to go. They're sitting in their recliner, they have their cup of tea, they're listening to me, they're feeling better, they didn't have to get in the car, and they had a nice, solid healing response. So a few people were reluctant, but they enjoy being in the comfort of their own home and having a session.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I was also going to ask you about, like, so have you ran into a lot of skeptics over the time that you've been practicing the energy healing? Has there been a lot of people that are just like, nah, I don't believe in it, I
don't? The only skeptic that admitted it was Bob Olson.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention, that's how when you recommended to me, they sent me the article, and I guess, you know, he's very known, right? His opinion is very respected in, I guess, the spiritual community mostly, right? Like, he's very known. I didn't read too much into him. I just read the article he wrote, and I know that he was a skeptic when he went to see you, and, you know, I guess he shared his testimonial about you made him a believer, basically.
Yeah. So I won't get too much into it, but, you know, he came to me, and it's in the article, with a knee problem, and I'm a skeptic, you know, and I'm thinking, those are the ones that talk the loudest when they have a healing response. And sure enough, he had a great healing response. But I would say 99% of the people that come here, I don't really have anybody that's a skeptic, because I work with chronic pain and chronic illness, people are ready. They've already been through what I've been through, or more, or worse, or, you know, and so, and their condition either is slow to heal through the medical community, or cannot be resolved through the medical community, or cannot be resolved, or hasn't been resolved through any other type of holistic modality, right? So they try allopathic medicine, and if, you know, they have a response to that, but maybe they are required to take medication, they don't really want to do that, or the medication doesn't agree with them, and then they try acupuncture, they try chiropractic care, they try supplement, they try all these things. And I'm one of the supportive modalities, and by the time they get to me, they are ready. They've pretty much tried everything else, and they're just ready to get better. So I don't really have people who say they're skeptics. I think I don't know, maybe one or two over the years. I've also treated only my clients' pets, right? Dogs and cats, things like that, right? They can't consent, they get better.
Wow.
Yeah, so not many skeptics.
No, that's but you're right about that, because even, I guess, you know, if it's okay, I'll share a little bit about, like, how we met and everything. So the same, right? I had been having this pain, you know, sciatic nerve, everything. Even the last interview I did, you know, he's a neurologist. And so, you know, we were talking about all that stuff. He had a similar situation. You know, I went to that, you know, acupuncturist, I guess that's how you say it, right? Acupuncturist, chiropractor. I went to therapy, all this stuff, and no, you know, and how you said, once you're like, you're ready to heal, you know, you're like, and so I thought it was perfect timing that I was like, oh, I happen to be in need of a healer, so let's try it out, you know. But I had already heard about it, like, not just in spiritual community, in the native community too. They even, you know, they try to take me to someone that was like, they did spiritual surgery even, and I was like, I believed it, but it was just like they wanted me to invest a lot of time that I wasn't ready to, like, oh, well, you're going to have to stay, not do anything, for a couple weeks. You could stay here with us and, we'll take care of you. We'll give you food, everything. So I just wasn't prepared. And the funny thing was, I experienced this healing with you, and the same, you were like, okay, but you can't, be going to do this, going to do that. And it was funny because this was the funny thing, because probably about a month or 2 months before I even got in contact with you, I had that dream. I had a dream that I was laying on my side. When I have these, it's like in the spirit world, right? So it looked like I was in some kind of facility. I was laying on my side, and there was a woman like that was kind of like checking me, right? And she put this huge thing into my spine. I don't think I ever shared this with you, right? I didn't, right? Yeah. So I dreamed it before, right? So she puts this huge thing into my spine, and she's checking, and she's like, okay, yeah. And it's kind of like reassuring, like, yeah, everything's going to get better. It's showing me all these things that you have wrong with you. And then after that, all of a sudden, I'm like, she's like, okay, so, okay, we're going to stay like that for a bit. And then all of a sudden I panicked, like, wait, how long is this going to take? And I remembered after I even had the first session with you, and you're like, okay, you can't do this. And that was the first thing that popped in my head. Wait, I can't just stay home. I can't do this and that. So I realized that's a huge problem for me, because even when I went to the acupuncturist, the first session, after I had all these needles in my back, and he's like, okay, I'll be back in 30 minutes. All of a sudden I had this like, what the hell, 30 minutes? I can't be here for 30 minutes, like laying on my face. So I bring all that up to say it's all part of why I got injured to begin with. So it's been a large, like, oh my God, there's been so many aspects to it that have shown me why I got injured to begin with, right? And like how you said, like, I'm not going to say I'm perfect now, right? But I have felt improvement, right? And one of the last things I saw is that a huge component of my pain, it's me, right? Like the last final part of this thing has to do with me. Yeah. It's like a very big spiritual aspect to it, which I'm not going to go too deep into, but I got that understanding from. So how would you say, like, even that when you do it, it's more based on, like, you see the physical body, right? When you do healings, you don't go too much into the other spiritual aspects of it, or you have?
No, it's 100% anatomy and physiology, the physical distress that the body is under, or imbalance, or out of sorts, or unwired. I don't know how to exactly explain it. So 100% of everything I do, chronic pain, chronic illness, the only other, and it's anatomy and physiology, and the only other component that can show up during a session is sometimes emotional responses happen. There are practitioners that go straight for emotional trauma, and that's how their gift manifests, and that's how they help people. And people who need that see them first.
Oh,
for
wow.
me, people are looking for more, can you take care of this pain?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not really take care of this pain. Can you make this better? The same way if you had a good result with acupuncture or chiropractic care, those kind of things. Same thing. So sometimes emotional releases happen, a sense of sadness or anger or despair, but it surfaces for attention. Like I tell people, your back is looking for attention. We're helping relax muscles, ligaments, and tendons. We're helping to get the alignment correct by relaxing soft tissue to take the pressure off the area. And when your body feels relieved and that area is starting to relax, sometimes emotions surface and they want attention too. And so you just wait and allow that to surface, let them feel whatever they're feeling. And in a few minutes time, it passes. So just like the body wants attention for the areas that are uncomfortable and painful, also, not every time and not most times, but sometimes emotions do surface during a session. And I just reassure people that it's just like your back that wants some relief. These emotions understand that it's a time for attention and to resolve, or at least begin to resolve. And that's why they're surfacing during the session.
Absolutely. And I did, because of all the, I don't know if it's even spiritual, but just, the aspects that cause the pain, there was a lot of imbalance. Because even when I went to the chiropractor, he saw it right away. He was like, oh, this side of your body is loose, and then this side is really tight. Yeah. And then even that, I guess he's like, you're probably wondering why, if that other side is tight, I'm loosening this side. And he was trying to explain it's just the way it works and this and that. And I did feel some relief with the chiropractor. I did feel a little bit of relief, but he was just way too far to be going. I couldn't take like the pain of, it felt like the damage. And he even said that, he's like, you know what, like every time you come, it's like there's just, you're probably gonna, on the way home, you're gonna get all that like, well, we just fixed kind of thing going. So
right
he wanted me, he definitely wanted me to find someone closer, which is great. That's why doing it remotely makes perfect sense for a lot of people that are going through these pains, right? Like it makes perfect sense. But also like you said, like for example, see, like one day that we had a session, like you told me that sometimes like the pain was relieved on I think the sciatic nerve even, and then all of a sudden my knee was hurting, and I was like, what? So but it was funny because I understood it. It's like, but it's all, see, that's where I tie in the spiritual aspect. It's almost like the pain was like, I don't want to leave yet, so I'm gonna go somewhere else. Yeah.
Or it could be your body is just aligning, and now the areas that compensated for a while, now we're gonna feel it. So, or it could be both.
Yeah. Well, because I didn't do anything that day, for even though, like you said, like things were correcting themselves, I didn't really do anything so the pain could have been that extreme. There was just no reason. It was like everything else was feeling better. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, like what? Like this doesn't make sense. And it was like very bad pain. And I was like, and then eventually it went away once I was like you don't even make sense. I had to tell it, like, you don't even make sense. Like and eventually I fell asleep and it went away by when I woke up. But
right? It just needed some time.
Yeah, that was strange. But no, and also, so at least that, right, I could vouch for that it works. I don't know how people, like you said, and even that I could say with certainty that I know the final pains because of this journey. I've been able to see that at the end there's certain things that I have to fix. So I get that. And I understand that. And it's kind of like that, like until you're ready to let go of it. Like, so if you're not ready to let go of it, like it's weird. I know it's weird. I hope people could understand that part, because I don't want to confuse anyone. And you may be thinking like, no, I'm in all this pain and how could I want this? Yeah, I don't know, but
and it's beliefs. It's believing that this can go away. Right? And some people have just been so locked in with their chronic pain for so many years that now that's just the way they are. And to get that body to shift is part one. And then part two is to help them understand that they can get better. And that one can be a little bit more difficult.
Absolutely. And just I always like to give examples that people could see that's tangible, even though it is tangible. But like, for example, something everyone experiences is like relationships, right? How many people stay in a painful relationship and just drag it out, and it's painful? I mean, you could it even could feel physically painful, right? If someone's like constantly in distress or stressed out or crying their eyes out or this and that, or heartbroken, and they just stay and stay and stay and stay. When do you finally learn that lesson? I know it's weird to understand that our bodies why would we make ourselves go through certain pains and we're just not ready to let go? Maybe because of that, like you said, the belief that it can't heal. Well, no, or everyone told me it's not going to heal or this and that. So why? I don't believe it would heal. And even having those thoughts keep it there, I guess, so.
I had someone tell me one time, an elderly gentleman, he was telling me about his arthritic knee. He said, it's like my old friend. I get up in the morning. Yeah. I've had it for so long, like my old friend.
Wow. So
right?
Yeah. So how would he feel? Like, so was he trying to say?
He got better, but he just, relaxed into the fact that it was always going to be that way.
And when he finally said goodbye, like he was ready to let go of his old friend.
Yeah, and arthritis doesn't heal completely, but what the conditions that put pressure on that knee can certainly be relieved. That's why people have chiropractic care, right? Pressure off the back, pressure off the shoulder, pressure off the neck to help become more comfortable, even though the bony structure of the knee is changing, right? There are things you can do to help that knee, bring down the inflammation with energy, align, the knee and the hip and the spine, and they improve. The arthritis doesn't, actually dissolve or go away, but they're more comfortable, and it buys them some time for knee surgery. You know what I mean? Some people
absolutely
have been told they need knee replacement, and this gives them some time. A lot of the time gives them some time.
No, absolutely. And also, like, I know when we were having our session and I was having pains up here, like shoulder, neck, that one I felt instantly. I was like, I mean, I believe in all this stuff. Like, I have a spiritual podcast. So,
right.
I believe in this stuff anyways, but still, like when you feel it, like it, it's just amazing that we're that connected, right? That all of us here are that connected, that someone could be doing energy healing on you. You're literally from me, you're on the other side of the country, right? And that I could instantly feel this change. It's pretty mind-blowing, but like I said, I don't need convincing. but
right.
But like, I guess I would like to offer that to people that maybe don't believe in it, just in case, I guess, for them to understand that these things are real. So I don't know how else to say it, aside from that. Like you said, you never really come across that because everyone that goes to you is already aware and ready for the healing anyways, right?
They're ready to give it a try, just like I was. I had already done everything I could possibly think of. And then, and every little thing helped. Sometimes the chiropractor helped me. Sometimes, acupuncturist helped me. Sometimes a supplement. Sometimes, but nothing really helped me feel like I was really getting better until I had energy healing. Yeah.
No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. And so I know we're coming, the time wise, we're coming to the end of our time. So usually when people schedule sessions with you, how much in advance do they have to notify you? How busy are you at this time? And also, how can they contact you?
They can contact me by going to my website, janefecteau.com. I'm a medical intuitive energy healer. I specialize in people who have chronic pain and chronic illness. And if you go to my website, you'll see a tab that says request a healing session, or if you request a healing session, and then I'll get back to you. Always write back and schedule a time to chat, usually, so I can just have a conversation with people before their actual first session, right? So they get to know me, I get to know them, I understand what the symptoms are, what the history is. And then by the time they have their first session, I have my notes ready to go. We can have our first session. I'm booked out 2 or 3 weeks in advance now. So people reschedule here and there. It's not very often though. So I would say the wait time would be minimally 2 weeks. And then at the long, the most would be 3 weeks. So you can request a healing session or contact Jane. If you have a question, don't want to schedule a session just yet, have some questions, I'll write back, we'll set up a time to chat. And then typically I ask people to set up 3 sessions, 3 in 3 weeks, or 1 every 2 weeks for 3 sessions and see how you do. Most people are going to need more than that, okay? But we should know in a few sessions if my work is going to make a difference. So, and then we just customize it as we go. If you're feeling better, we set up you had good progress in the first 3 sessions, and then we should set up a couple more, see how you do. As time goes on, we can space those out to 3 weeks, once a month. Some people stay with me a long time, once a month. Some people are every 2 weeks for a long time. I was just thinking about after hours care, but that's people in the hospital that are my clients and they call me. And so, I make accommodations for that, evenings and weekends. But anyway, so yeah, 2 to 3 weeks out.
Okay, perfect. No, thank you so much. And also, I forgot to mention, there's tons of testimonials on your website as well. So
yes, please check out the testimonial tab. My friend said I should call them happy healing stories because they're paragraphs.
Oh, wow. That's
they're
beautiful.
Paragraphs. And these are, I have more coming in all the time. I just haven't given them to my web hosting people to put them in. But by the time people call me, they've already looked at my website, they've already read many of the testimonials, and they're ready to have a good experience. So yeah, please check out the testimonial tab and get an idea of how I've been able to help people.
Absolutely. Oh, no. Jane, thank you so much. Unless there's anything else you want to say.
I think that's it. Thank you for inviting me and hosting me here today. I really appreciate it, and I feel so comfortable with you, and I'm happy to recommend your podcast to some of my healer friends.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you. The honor was all mine. I'm really I was excited. I'm happy.
Me too.
Yeah, definitely. So and whenever you want to come back, by all means, it's open to you. And I
would love to. There are stories. So many stories I could update you.
Oh, absolutely.
More than what's happening right now.
No, absolutely. And I'd love to hear them. And I'm sure, others would as well, especially, if you're going through anything, just stories that kind of keep you being hopeful are always great, right? They're always.
Yes. Thank you, Omar. Appreciate you.
Jane, thank you so much. I appreciate you. So, okay. So we'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, sometimes you're just feeling it, you know what I'm saying? You're just feeling it. And I want to feel this way forever.